Hey there, I'm Layne Johnson. Welcome to my studio. Today, I'm painting sky holes. What is a sky hole? What are you talking about, Layne? A sky hole is something that I think is really important to make a tree look realistic in a landscape painting. A sky hole are those areas in a tree where you have what's behind it, in this case, the sky, coming through the solid mass of the tree. If you just paint a tree that's big and solid, it doesn't necessarily look realistic because you can't really see what's behind it. Very often, trees will have sky, or it could be mountains, it could be hills behind it. In this case, we have sky, and it's going behind this tree. And you see these various locations where you're seeing the sky coming through the tree. Now, I think it's important when you paint these that you paint them maybe a little bit darker in value because otherwise the sky hole, if it's the same value or brighter, it will appear as though the sky hole is actually in front of the tree. That's not what you want. So I typically will paint them a little bit darker in value. And the end result is a realistic looking tree, the way you would see it in nature. So let me show you how I do it. Okay, I'm starting off with this round brush. A lot of times when you're painting sky holes, you'll be using a lot of times is what brush you really are liking at the time. And it depends on how large your painting is. Sometimes I will use rough brushes, in other words, used brushes or brushes that I've constructed that are texture brushes, kind of like this one here. But on this size painting here, I'm just going with a good round. This is a round short round pointed from Princeton. It's an Aspen brush, and it's really good for getting into walk-in areas, but it's also really good for just bringing out little details too. So, as I said before, I'm looking at this, what's behind it, and then not making it any brighter than that, trying not to do that. And you don't really need to worry about that in a lot because if you do make something a little bit brighter, it's easy enough to come back and adjust that. So, yes. You can have layers of this too. These sky holes, if you think about the real tree, they are areas of a tree that you can see the sky from behind. But then you're going to have a tree limbs and foliage in front of that. You'll have various layers of things happening. So you might add a sky hole in here and then come back in a little bit and decide to put in more foliage. Okay, another thing that you can do, I mentioned using a value that's a little bit darker than the other value that's behind it. Another thing you can do in conjunction is tone down the color saturation a little bit so that it's not as bright per se. And that will work too. Of course, different tree species are going to do different types of treatment when you paint them. This actually is back there, so I'm going to change colors on that. Okay, I'm gonna switch colors. In this guy, we have basically yellows and oranges and this very, very pale blue color. That's sometimes you'll see this color at sunsets and sometimes at sunrises. But it's these colors here. So I'm going to switch over to that, which is behind this area. You know, I may come back after doing a lot of this and decide to go back down with foliage, and that'd be just fine. A little bit lighter. Now, I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to show you an example of what I was talking about. If you make a color too bright, I'm going to make this blue a really bright blue, not bright blue, but the value is going to be a lot lighter. And watch how it jumps out. We'll see. Let's do one right here. It's not bad, but if you go even lighter than that, you can see how it kind of stands out in front of this tree. Uh, it's just you got to get the value down correctly. So I'm actually going to just take that off, dab it a little bit, and knock it down, and then replace it with a more reasonable value. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a little bit too right there. I'm going to knock that one down a little bit. In fact, I may go ahead and add foliage back on that in a little bit. It's got a lot of yellow near that edge. And then looks that color, but brighter. That's a big thing about painting is matching colors. Okay. It's got a cloud right behind it, so it's getting into some of the red. Come back to that in a bit though. Test this color. This is an interesting color mixture because it's a blue. It's tempered with its complement. So and that's what you see sometimes at sunset. You see what would normally be an aqua color. It's got a lot of kind of orange into it. This makes it dusky. And I'm going to change that. Let me get a color mix. Yeah, I'm talking about sky holes, but we're talking about sky holes. It's almost a design feature because you're defining parts of the tree that come through, but you're also defining edges of things. And this is, of course, a sunset scene. So sunset trees are more silhouette anyway. But in general, when you're painting trees, you want to always think in terms of volume. And I like to always compare trees to umbrellas. Instead of thinking of it as a shape, you're going to be thinking of it with volume as an umbrella. So there's limbs here that you can see. There's also limbs behind that you can be picking up on the other blues. And then the last things I typically paint will be the limbs coming forward towards you. And you don't have to do very much of that, just to give the impression that it is, a three-dimensional object. A little orange in that. That. See how that's jumping out. So I'm gonna knock it down a little bit. Some of the ultramarine color. One of the things that I like to do when I'm doing sky holes, it's opportunity to go in and define limbs. I'll give an example like right here. Just by adding a few little strokes, you can define a limb that's going to go out from the trunk. Right here. I'm getting into the orange, so I'm going to change colors. This is too much. And like I like to come back with the liner or another brush to define limbs even further. Again, don't let them jump out too much. Okay, let's get some real orange in this area. Right next to we'll get next to the trunk here. And really, once you sit down to do this, uh, you can get done with it a little bit and then step back and see where you nailed it, where you need to adjust, and go back to it. I think one of the important things when you're painting sky holes is to be patient because you don't want to get sloppy and just start stabbing at certain places of the painting. If you're looking at reference or if you're looking at the real thing, look for the sky holes and make them as details as they need to be, and probably not any more than that. What you don't necessarily want to do is create a lot of texture where where texture doesn't really need to be. So just be cognizant of that. And one other thing is the more you practice it, the better you're going to get at it. Just remember, sky holes are really important to make a tree look realistic in a landscape painting. There you go. Thanks for joining me in my studio. If you enjoyed this video, you'll also probably enjoy watching the videos I've linked on the screen. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. If you're ready for more in-depth lessons, consider enrolling on one of my online courses where I teach classical painting techniques for landscape painters. You can find all my classes at laynejohnson.com or click on the link in the description below.